that?
That's Las Vegas.
Oh,
yeah, we've got what, another few seconds before it ends, but yeah, it's a little far away, but it's nice.
I don't know. I like it a lot. That's great.
Yeah, heck, it's where you live, so it's a beautiful.
I can see the Luxor. I see all the stuff there. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, hello everybody.
Hello, everybody.
I am Greg DePalm. This is Jim Feist, and you are watching Proline Pigskin Fridays. There will be a Proline Pigskin Mondays and a Proline Pigskin Wednesdays. So that's really going to be just the beginning of all of the excellent NFL and college football content that you are going to have right here under one umbrella at Proline TV. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And look out, because in the description of this video, on demand, of course, matter of fact, I think it's already there. So anybody that happens to be watching this live, I've already put in the two links. One is for our YouTube membership. That's just for horse racing. But the other is our new Patreon. We have a Patreon set up now. It's just only $5. I mean, how awesome is that? We've got a football contest. Can't wait to share that with everybody. Beat the pros. You get to compete against great handicappers like this man right here. So it should be a lot of fun, and it's going to be an awesome football season, Jim. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's getting close, 90 some days, and we're cooking.
That's what we're doing.
I mean, we're talking about football, but there's a whole lot of stuff going on right now too.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I think sometimes, especially with OTAs, there's a lot of OTAs that are just. These mini camps are kind of coming to a close, and then that's it. And then you got a month off, and then training camp is here before you know it. So we're only roughly about 30 days away from some of these teams starting their training camps, and then it's on to the preseason and so forth. So yeah, and the reason we're doing this, even though we'll obviously the closer we get to the regular season, we're going to give all sorts of final predictions and all that kind of stuff. But this is a good time to take advantage of the numbers like we have over the last 3 weeks with the AFC South, the NFC South, and the NFC North. NFC North was last week. We're doing the AFC North this week. Then we're going to do the 4 remaining divisions in 4 consecutive weeks. Once we're done with that, Mark Lawrence is going to join us, and the 3 of us are going to take it from there all the way through to the Super Bowl, talking not just NFL, but college football as well. So that's on this program that'll air 3 days a week on Proline TV. But don't forget, you're going to have all sorts of other programming. Jim will be doing his thing. Mark will be doing his thing. Mark, Jim, and Andy will be doing their thing. We've got so much stuff to do. So let's start talking about the AFC North, Jim. And what do you want to talk about first?
We know who's going to win this. We already know it's a lock. The Cleveland Browns, without a quarterback, is going to win the whole thing.
So says the odds makers, no doubt about that.
Yeah, right.
They are. Well, the odds makers are.
I'm wondering if they can even win 5 games.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Baltimore.
No, I was talking about Cleveland.
Oh, so you're already being sarcastic, starting off with sarcasm.
I got to start with some.
Okay, got it. Yeah. But I will say this. As I take a look, let's take a look at the lines here. There's the division lines. Okay. I'm sorry. And yes, I know it's probably money thrown away, but I don't throw away money just to go, oh, anything can happen. That's
no
like
way.
saying
there's no way you're going to put money on the Browns.
No, I'm just telling you right now, this is a absolutely ridiculous number.
Yeah, but look at the 3 teams that are in there. I mean, they all have a quarterback.
NFL.
They all have a good coach. I mean,
what?
This is the Browns.
This is the NFL. This is the same coach.
There is no way in God's earth this team makes the playoffs. No way in God's earth.
Well, look, the major reason, matter of fact, the only reason, like if anybody wants to have a debate on why the Browns are, like you're saying, not going to make the playoffs, why they're 30-1 to win the division, in my opinion, there's only one reason. if they're going to come out with me with any other reasons, well, I'll debate them all day long. But I have no problem bowing to the fact that we have no idea what they're going to get out of the quarterback position, and we know how obviously important it is. But it's one of those things where they're so talented. They're not like Philly or the Chiefs. Don't get me wrong, but they are more talented than they're getting. That's why I'm saying I think they're being completely disrespected, like they are a garbage team, and they are not a garbage team.
Well, they've been more talented for the last 3 or 4 years, and they've done that.
Well, but there were reasons, and that's the whole reason why we do shows like this, is to explain what those changes are, why, if everything goes right, that they could be a lot better than people think. And we could start obviously with the Browns. So let's take a look at how things shaked up. We're looking at the ourlads.com depth chart for the Browns. And what I think that there's a lot to be excited about here for a few different players that they added as far as the draft. They were able, of course, the quarterbacks, that's easy, but they were able to add a really good running back, 2 of them actually, and Judkins and Sampson. So I know Chubb, big name there and all that, but he's gone. The injuries just killed him. So hopefully he'll rebound.
He had an unfortunate career with that, all those injuries. Yeah.
Yeah. So Jerome Ford, even though he's right now the number 1 back, he's not going to be the number 1 back. It's going to be Judkins. Matter of fact, Sampson will probably be the number 2 back. Ford is going to be like that number 3 back. That's going to be the veteran. That's going to be asked to do a multitude of things. But Judkins is going to be the number 1 runner. And Sampson is also going to be sort of like the thunder to lightning kind of approach, where Judkins is going to be the power game. Sampson is going to be the guy that could take it to the house.
Why do you think? Why are you so sure about Judkins?
Oh, because of his college tape. I mean, he was the number 1 running back on the Ohio State Buckeyes national championship team, and that was a big part of why Ohio State won a championship. So he was a really good running back when he came over from the SEC, played 1 year for Ohio State, and boy, did it work out for him. Now, I think what I like about it, though, is that what happened at Ohio State was he shared the role. So he had Travion Henderson, who's now with the Patriots, and that was the home run hitter at Ohio State. Well, Sampson, who did a really good job at Tennessee, that's his job now. What's that?
Yeah, I saw it, but the reservation was for 5:15.
By the way, we can still hear your audio, Jim. I'll cut the audio while you're doing that. Okay. So Jim is taking a reservation. Anyway, so you take a look at the whole room in general, and it is definitely going to be different. But like I said, already, by the way, a reason to make sure we got that avatar in for you next week, Jim.
Yes.
So by the way, was your reservation okay?
He'll fix it.
Okay, of course they're gonna fix it. You told them who it was, right?
Well, I don't know that matters, but they'll
yeah. Okay.
I'm a regular there, so they'll fix it.
Okay, so the running game is undoubtedly going to be better. The running game was awful the last 2 years because you had Chubb's injury 2 years ago. He was not healthy, so they had nothing the last couple of years in the running game. Now they're finally going to have a running game back to where it was, hopefully to where it was. Nobody's going to be Chubb in 2025. I'm not going that far, but they're going to have a good running game. This is also important to note. And I think the biggest reason why they're going to be a lot better on offense, it's going to help the quarterback game, and it's going to help the running game, it's going to help the offensive line, is that they are now going. They went with this passing offense. We're gonna find a coordinator to match up with Deshaun Watson, and because that's what Deshaun Watson does. He's a passer. We got to do this completely different scheme, and it completely backfired, as everybody knows. And they looked awful last year. So Stefanski decided very smartly, I'm going back to what was successful for me before. And that is the zone rushing offensive scheme. that is going to make things a lot easier for the offensive line. And it's also going to be very important for these guys that had success before to go back to a system that worked. So the question, of course, is going to be a quarterback. And remember, I just talked about this being a quarterback, much better situation for the quarterback. When Joe Flacco was here a couple of years ago in that very small sample size with this scheme, he played incredibly until that playoff game. You bring in Kenny Pickett, you've got the 2 rookies. So they were so bad last year, they're going to be a lot better this year. Is that going to mean that they're going to be better than the 3 teams ahead of them? Probably not. I don't think they are, because they don't have a quarterback right now. We're just going on conjecture. But again, they're not going to be as bad, I think, as people think.
Well, I agree with that. They're not that far removed from the other teams. However, the other teams in that particular division are quality clubs.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
in Baltimore is as good as anybody. Cincinnati with Burrow's the best quarterback in the league. Rodgers, we know he can play. Tomlin's a good coach. He gets more out of the team than most people ever do. Now, I don't particularly care for their offensive coordinator, and I don't know how that's going to gel with Rodgers. I think Rodgers will just tell him, yeah, you would tap him on the shoulder, say, I'm going to do my own thing, because that's what he usually does anyway. So they're really at the bottom of the pack here but now, that running style, that what Stefanski can do is really good. But the problem is he's going up against quality clubs here, and he doesn't have any soft spots in this division at all.
No. Matter of fact, they start the season with the Bengals in their very first matchup. They get them at home, and we have no idea at this point what's going to happen with that quarterback room. There's really just kind of one possibility. It's going to be one of the veterans that gets traded. It's going to be either Flacco or Pickett. So now most likely it would be Flacco. But what if Flacco comes out in the preseason and it looks like the Flacco that we saw a couple of years ago when he looked tremendous? Well, they're not going to trade him then. They're going to probably start him. So we'll see. By the way, that kid that they drafted in round 3, Fannin, putting him along with Njoku is going to be really fun, because Fannin was the top tight end in college football last year. He was the Mackey Award winner. He was the best one. Matter of fact, I know he won. I don't know if he won the Mackey Award, because Tyler Warren, of course, was the number 1 tight end. He's the number 2 tight end in the draft, even though everybody thought he was the number 1 guy. But in reality, Fannin had all of the numbers. He had all the stats for tight ends. It was a huge year for him. And throw in the fact that they have Jerry Jeudy at receiver. Also, their offensive line, like I said, needs to step up. There were injuries last year, and there also should be a lot better this year under the new scheme. But defensively, this is also really, probably more importantly, if Cleveland's going to contend or be a team that will outperform expectations or low expectations, this is going to be the side of the field that's going to do it. Myles Garrett continues. There's no reason to believe he won't have a monster season again. They used their first-round pick on Mason Graham, who's a stud. So that's going to be a huge deal. They added a second-round tight linebacker who's going to be a huge addition to that unit. Unfortunately, they do lose Owusu, JOK. He's out probably for the year. He got injured last year, so he's not going to probably play this year, and that's a big loss. 2026, boy, they're going to look really good at linebacker with Schlesinger and JOK, but won't have JOK this year. And the one problem I do have with Cleveland is I think their secondary is a little overrated. Denzel Ward, he's the top guy in that secondary, but he also needs to make sure he stays healthy. They've had a few injuries here, but for the most part, these guys here, Emerson and Newsome, they've been a little bit overrated the last couple of years, so they really need to step things up. And they did add Tryon Shoyinka, an edge rusher from Tampa Bay. That was like their top defensive addition in free agency. But unfortunately for Tryon Shoyinka and Bucs fans, really he did not pan out as a first-round draft pick, which is why they had no problem letting him go. So There you go. That's Cleveland. Let's take a look at Cleveland's numbers. Well, you tell me how you want to do this. We can go with the numbers for each team, or we could wait for the numbers after we're done with all four teams.
Let's go through the other teams first.
Okay. Which team do you want to go with next?
Pittsburgh.
All right. So let's take a look.
I'm going up the ladder. I'm going with 4, 3, 2, 1.
Oh, so Jim's got Pittsburgh in third, which I don't disagree with. And this is all about Aaron Rodgers. We know that. And I guess the interesting thing is what's the difference between what the Jets had, who were very talented last year, with Aaron Rodgers, who was supposed to be the guy. Don't forget, Jets were favored in a lot of games last year, even when they were bad by midseason, because Aaron Rodgers was there, but also because it was a talented team that everybody, I guess Vegas, and I know everybody liked to bet on Rodgers and all that. But look, if they were a bad team, didn't have good players, they wouldn't have been in that situation. What I'm saying is Pittsburgh is also obviously a talented team, but I don't really see any major differences except one big one, like you mentioned, Jim, and that's the head coach, is that there is stability at head coach and on the coaching staff and within the organization, that it should be a lot easier for Aaron Rodgers to make a more seamless transition with this team.
Well, I think I mentioned the offensive coordinator because I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, he's a guy that does like to run the football, which, like you said, is going to be a very interesting dynamic because of.
Well, you got to remember too. There's another factor we got to put in this is, even though Aaron Rodgers is one of the most talented passers that's ever played the game, and he understands the game and he makes great decisions, he's older. I mean, we all get older, but he's at that tipping point age for a football player that usually doesn't do very well. Now, yeah, Brady was different, but Brady took care of himself in an amazing way, and he had longevity in the game long after what most people would have to fade out. This guy doesn't do that.
Well, I think the biggest problem is, and whether it's ego or whatever it is, the biggest problem is, like we saw with the Jets. The Jets, I think, ranked dead last in the NFL last year in rushing attempts. Aaron Rodgers, like you said, there's got to be an issue there because this is not a coordinator who's ever worked with. The coordinator wants to run the football. Aaron Rodgers is the one that gets to the line of scrimmage and will dictate whether you run the football or not. And he does not like to run the football. He wants to throw the football. And that is a problem because Pittsburgh, in order for them to have success, they have to run the ball. So this is the dynamic that we're going to have to wait and see how it all unfolds, because I think they could have success if Rodgers would run the football more. So I don't know if he's going to do it, though.
I don't know. This just doesn't look like a marriage that's well thought out. But anyway.
Yeah, it was surprising. And look, maybe for the first time in my life as a Jet fan that I could ever remember. Now, look, I could be completely wrong. And based on history, maybe that's the way it'll go. But I can't believe that the Pittsburgh Steelers let us little old New York Jets get Justin Fields while they wanted Aaron Rodgers. It's almost like you actually you let us sign Justin Fields. Like we get Justin Fields and you get Aaron Rodgers. How did that work out?
Well, and when you look at and you talk to people, Fields has so much talent. He's just never put it together, and maybe he never will. But I mean, his running ability, his strong arm, his athleticism, and he's so much younger than Rodgers. I mean, yes. Yeah, he's never been able to put it together. And there's a guy that former Super Bowl champ, yep. Most valuable player and great player, but he's beyond the age. You're not going to build a team around this guy.
I think I believe they got very lucky when they had the opportunity in the 6th round to draft Will Howard. I mean, this is what happens to organizations, great organizations like the Steelers. Get lucky like this. I think they made the wrong decision with Rodgers, but lo and behold, there's Will Howard, who I think when Rodgers hangs it up, whether it's in 2020 after this season or next season, that's your franchise quarterback, Will Howard. And that, if it does work out that way, Pittsburgh's in a much better situation now than they would have been before the draft. At least they have someone that the fans can look forward to if things don't really go well with Rodgers, instead of going, what are we going to do? We have to wait and draft a quarterback, and then we got to go through rookie pains, and that'll take us 2 or 3 years. So, yeah, I think they got pretty fortunate there. They also drafted Caleb Johnson and basically made the switch. They decided to go away from Harris, and they went with the young running back from Iowa, who is a between the tackles runner, tough kid. They also got the kid Gainwell from Philly. So I think the running game will be just fine. They also have DK Metcalf for Pickens, and I think that's a pretty nice swap, considering the kind of bad seed Pickens was becoming in the locker room last year. It just wasn't working out. So Metcalf's a hell of a talent. And now Rodgers has a really good receiver to work with. And an offensive line should be better too, by the way. They had a couple of injury issues last year, but they have a pretty talented offensive line. So this is all going to be up to Aaron Rodgers.
Well, we've talked about Pittsburgh and Cleveland so far, and there's absolutely no question in my mind that Pittsburgh would probably win 3 or 4 more games than Cleveland will this year. Granted, it's all on the quarterback. That's it. And with Rodgers at the helm, I mean, you don't need an offensive coordinator because he's not going to listen to him anyway.
That's going to be a problem. Defensively, J.J. Watt is looking for a new deal. And this is going to be interesting because the Steelers, like the Patriots, there's certain organizations that do not give in to the older Hall of Fame talent just because he was a Hall of Famer.
If he's not on the field, they just went down a step.
And that's the thing too, is he's been getting a little older, he has been wearing down a little bit late in the season. He's had a little bit of an injury issue. And so the Steelers, they don't mind giving him a new deal, of course, but they don't want to give him some deal that he thinks is, it's my last contract, I'm going to make all this money. I don't think the Steelers are going to do that. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that, because Watt did not attend the OTAs.
I saw that, yeah.
So, for what that's worth. And, so that's something to keep an eye on. Otherwise, I think they also did a good job in the draft. Derek Harmon is going to be a really good player for them up front. Cameron Haywood, this is his last year, I believe. We talked about that with Alex Kozora. He did a great job and always does, talking about the Steelers. Interviewed him a few weeks ago. And of course, they've got 2 good linebackers, Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson. Peyton Wilson is going to turn into a really good one as well. I like the draft pick of Jack Sawyer. So the Steelers, of course, Micah Fitzpatrick is an excellent safety. So good football team, but it's one of those situations, Jim, that we say a lot, and we'll probably have said a lot when we get through all this with all these 32 teams. If there's going to be a certain group, like that middle group of like 15, 20 teams where we say, hey, there's talent there, but it all depends on the quarterback. So I think that's what it is here with the Steelers as well.
We move up to the next team, which I have finishing second. And I actually would have them finishing first if I had any confidence at all in their defense, Cincinnati.
Yeah, look, their defense is not going to be ridiculously bad like it was last year. Not even close. It's not going to be even the year before. They had injuries, and they could tell that something was going wrong in 2023, and then it just completely fell off in 2024. A lot of it had to do with injuries. They didn't have the depth, but it just wasn't working. So they get rid of their defensive coordinator. And instead, they bring in the defensive coordinator who was a part of the Notre Dame national championship runner-up team. So they've got, by the way, he was linebacker coach for the Bengals when they lost in the Super Bowl a few years ago. So he goes to Notre Dame, coaches there for a couple of years, almost takes Notre Dame to the championship as defensive coordinator, and now comes back to Cincinnati as defensive coordinator, not just linebacker coach. So what did they do to improve their defense talent-wise? Well, they added a couple of nice linebackers. So that's a plus. Demetrius Knight was our lad's top-rated linebacker in this draft. So that's going to be an upgrade. The secondary, as bad as it has been the last year and a half, has really more to do with injuries. They've got to get these guys on the field. There's no reason to believe they won't be healthy to start the season. DJ Turner was coming on until he got hurt. Dax Hill was coming on until he got hurt. And these are high draft picks. So they get those guys healthy again. That'll be a big deal. And of course, everybody is waiting to find out what happens with Trey Hendrickson. He's another guy that's holding out. And keep this in mind. These guys hold out now because it doesn't matter. They're not really getting fined a lot of money. The big deal is if they hold out and can't, because that's a lot of money, knowing that they're going to play anyway. Because these guys, the players don't hold out for the season. They don't, because there's too much money involved. They have no control. So, but Trey Henderson wants a better deal. We'll see if the Bengals give it to him. They did draft Shamar Stewart in round 1 to try to help. Unfortunately, he's holding out. And there's I think what's going on is Cincinnati. I don't know. This is just what I'm hearing. I probably see if I can get some other information from our insider. But they're, players in the draft, especially where Shamar Stewart got drafted, they're slotted like in an area where everybody knows just about what ballpark of money you're going to make. There's no deviation from it. Nobody deviates from it. It's if you're slotted here, you make somewhere between here and here. Well, the Bengals apparently are trying to change that. They're trying to now, so they want some different wording in the contract. What it is, we're not going to get into, but it's typical Bengals nonsense.
This is why I don't have them number 1.
And so that's something that will also have to be played out. But offensively, there's no reason to believe after what we saw last year, especially now that Chase and Higgins don't have to worry about contracts, this offense is going to be even better than last year. Is that possible?
Those are one of those teams you bet every game over, and they're going to lose 39-42 every game. I mean,
again, I don't think it's going to be unless Hendrickson gets traded. The Bengals defense isn't going to be that bad.
Well, the Bengals are a frugal team. They don't spend a lot of money.
No,
they have it. Whatever money they got spent, it's in the offense, and obviously there's something wrong here. It's an organization it really doesn't. It's not built to win. With the attitude.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's not built to win long term. Yeah,
correct. Yeah,
yeah. They can get lucky every 4 years. Like they got Joe Burrow, so maybe every 4 years it all aligns, the contracts align, and then we can go for it.
I mean, he is, in my opinion, as maybe the most talented quarterback. He definitely is right there, 1 or 2.
I think he is. I would put him right behind Patrick Mahomes at number 2. I'd probably put Josh at 3 and Lamar at 4. That's just me. But I agree. Joe Burrow, what makes Burrow so awesome is how he performs in the big games. And again, that's to me, even the difference of why he has to be rated, in my opinion, ahead of both quarterbacks, Allen and Jackson, because he wins those games in the postseason. We've seen him do it.
Yeah, he's an incredible player. I mean, he just, in my opinion, he's on the wrong team. But from a standpoint of winning the Super Bowl, because I'm not sure they're going to support him at defense, and that's my problem with him.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, they got to hope that they get at least. And look, what's probably going to happen is they're going to get at least 1 more year out of Hendrickson, and then they got to hope that Miles Murphy and Shamar Stewart can take another step, because they're going to need someone to take over for Hendrickson in about a year. Maybe, I don't know if they'll get lucky for 2 years, but I do think there's a window while Hendrickson is on this team. There is a window for this defense to play average defense with an explosive offense. So, which is how they almost won the Super Bowl a few years ago. Okay, so that's the Bengals, and now we're going to wrap up with Baltimore. Jimothy.
They are real good, real good. They're real good. They don't seem to get there at the end, and I'm not sure what causes that. But a few times now in the last couple of years, you would think that they would have done better at the end. But right at the end of the season, getting the playoffs, and they just crash and burn. I'm not quite sure what it is.
Well, I mean, let's just look. I'm going to read this. Actually, I could probably put this over here. Here's in my opinion. I think this is a problem. I don't think it is the be-all end-all issue, but I think it's a problem. Okay, so we've got the Lamar Jackson. Check this out. This was on May. This was just last month. Cryptic Instagram message as Ravens contract situation heats up. Okay, so what does he say? Let's go over here. Where is it? Okay. Once I show, by the way, I don't know if you've ever read Lamar Jackson's tweets.
No, I have not.
Yeah, he's he's not a very good writer. Okay. So he says, once I show my love, they show me why they don't deserve it. Right then, soon, as I put my guard down, that's when they hurt me. And first of all, it's hard to understand this.
Well, it's not well written, but I understand exactly what he's saying.
But this is the problem here.
He leaves himself vulnerable by being loyal to the team, but they're not loyal to him. I get it.
Oh, yeah. And there's a couple things here. First of all, he is too sensitive. He's very sensitive a kid. And it's nothing. I mean, it's not like he's an asshole or anything like that. It's just that this is, something that he has had to deal with, and he shouldn't be that sensitive. It's tough, but that's how he is.
It's hard to tell anybody how they're supposed to feel. I mean, his feelings are real, but they're only real to that person. So it's very difficult to tell them. And
he is saying that here's a team that is not showing me love. They just gave this guy like a $230 million contract.
Well, that's not enough. I mean, you can't survive on that.
Yeah. It was a 5-year deal worth $260, $185 million guaranteed. And by the way, this was in April of 2023. It's 2025, 2 years later, in a 5-year deal. And he wants to renegotiate, and it's their fault.
Well, see, that's I'm going to go back to, the old school. You got a deal. You signed a deal. You made a deal. What is this renegotiation bullshit? We all know what happens. Why did you do the deal in the first place if you wanted to renegotiate it? Or why didn't you do it a year-to-year deal? And if you really, you can't have it all the ways. These guys, that's very annoying. Yeah. Imagine being the boss and you have like 50 employees, and every year the employees want to renegotiate their contracts. God, come on.
And this is why I was saying, I think that, again, this is not the be-all end-all part of the issue. Why I think they can't get that next step, but this is part of it a little bit in my mind. You need to see a player that is, it's almost like, I remember when he was going through that contract situation a few years ago. It was long out, drawn up. There was a lot of people who thought that they were going to let him go, trade him. He wasn't coming off a great season. And that's where it was. But they love him. They gave him the money, and everything's been great the last couple of years. But yet here we are again, and it's like, dude, play football, man. Even if you want a new contract, let your agent handle that. Stay out of the media. Don't stop skipping mini camps when you're supposed to be there with your teammates. And by the way, he wasn't the only one that wasn't there. 5 other key guys weren't there. Derrick Henry. I think Zay Flowers skipped it. There's another guy, Zay Flowers, who we have to find out whether or not he's going to miss some time because of what happened last year. So I just think there's too much. I don't like the camaraderie on this team. I think that, to me, you know how it is, Jim. There's so much talent on this team, but when it gets to the big games, when there's only 4 teams left or 8 teams left, that's when the other teams that are more close together, there's more symbiosis there. Those are the teams that win those games. And that's how you win games, by being more together as a group. I just don't like this group. I don't like the way that they handle each other.
You don't realize, I mean, basketball has fewer players, a lot fewer players. But like I did a piece the other day on the Las Vegas Aces, who two-time champs in the WNBA, and they're playing like shit now. And why? Why did they get rid of Plum? Why is there? I mean, there's not that many players on a basketball team. The football team has 100 or 95, whatever the hell it is. It's a lot. But the chemistry, people don't always get along, and you can't get along with the coaches. You can't get along with the front office. You can't get along with your fellow players. I mean, it's a big issue.
Well, that's the thing. You have to get along. And
well, in this case, if this guy wants to renegotiate, I'd look for a trade. Trade him to LA.
Well, they're not doing
that. When Stafford retires, he's not going anywhere with LA, and you have the richest owner in the league out there.
It's not like that though. They love the kid, and they're not trading him.
Well, they might end up, if he comes with this attitude and starts missing time and not.
But that's what he did 2 years ago.
Yeah.
He came with the same attitude, and they still gave him the money. And
they thought the money would cure it.
That's the thing. That's why you would hope that the organization would just be a little, I don't know, maybe after you paid him the first time, you should have realized this and have some sort of better communication with the kid. Or maybe this is because you can't, I don't know how you run an organization like this. I just don't. Where the leader of your team every couple of years keeps asking for more money.
You got to look at what's going on in all these sports. You got these very wealthy owners. Like, we just got Tibbs fired in New York, which is, now that you're seeing how good Indiana is and how the Knicks played them, you're saying, hey, that was a mistake. You could have tweaked a couple things on the team, but you have a pretty good coach. And now they can't find a coach because Dolan, he's the Jerry Jones.
Back to the NFL, my friend.
He's the Jerry Jones of basketball football. Because
that never works.
No, that didn't work. And the same thing in New York. You got the big market that can never win anything. They haven't won anything in 25, 26 years. Same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. When you have owners that make big decisions that are wrong decisions, like Haslam signing, well, I don't know, all these idiots that he signed and pay all this money. I mean, you got these owners making these mistakes.
That's the thing.
They think they can cure everything with money. It doesn't work that way.
I mean, Baltimore has been a very good winning franchise for a very long time, and that's the kind of reason why I'm surprised about it. But this is how it works. They win games, and I think that they just believe that they got so much talent, and he has so much talent that it's just about, hey, we've won a couple of Super Bowls before. We don't need to win like the Chiefs. We don't need to win four Super Bowls in 6 years or something like that. Let's just win a Super Bowl every whatever, and we're fine. And let's just make playoffs and earn money. And that's kind of, I think, what this organization's about. And hey, it could be a lot worse. There's an 80% of the team franchises in the NFL are probably not handled as well as the Baltimore Ravens are, but that's just the way they do business. So it's working for them. They believe it'll eventually pay off with the Super Bowl. They'll get there. I just don't know about that. I just think there's so much talent now at the top level, not all across the league. We just talked about it. You got Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. You also have Joe Burrow in the same conference. It's not easy to think that you're going to be able to beat those guys year in and year out. You just can't do it.
No. And then you got on the West Coast, you got Harbaugh, who's going to definitely improve his team. You know how he's done when he gets his second or third year. So you got some, there's a lot of tough competition out there. And if you get this this is a problem, no question.
So we'll see. Again, there's a lot of talent. Lamar Jackson is playing his best football of his career, it's all
player. Athletic. He's a great player.
And all is going to depend on a few things. Offensively, the guard situation is still a big question mark. That's the two positions along their offensive line that are really players that, for the most part, wouldn't be starters on a lot of teams. But they still have Ronnie Stanley. Rosengarten was a really good rookie for them, and Linderbaum was also a really steady, solid center, maybe even better than that, better than solid. And then, of course, the Henry move was awesome for them because
that was an amazing trade. I mean, he is unbelievable at his age to do what he's doing. Unbelievable.
And sooner or later, he's going to slow down, and when that happens, I don't know. Looking at the backfield right now, they do not have a player that they can just turn. Like if Henry goes down for a few games this year, that's okay. But if he were to miss 6 games, 8 games, or when he, like, let's say after this year, I'm done, whatever, they don't have a guy. They don't have a number one guy. So that is something to keep in mind.
Well, that kind of talent's pretty impossible to replace anyway.
It is. Yeah. And then on defense, the defense, the one issue that they had last couple of years, is their pass rush. And they just have not had enough pass rush. So they did use a second-round pick on Mike Green. Mike Green, it's interesting because Mike Green was a player that had some off-the-field issues that apparently Baltimore is one of these organizations that, as far as that's concerned, they don't really – they have like no tolerance for this. So they must have checked everything out on Green, said he's okay. We'll trade him. We'll pick him up in the second round. And here's a guy a lot of people thought could have gone in the top 20 of the draft. That's how talented he is. So they need that guy to step up because, look, they drafted Owe in round 1 a few years ago. He hasn't become that player. Same thing with Ajabo. He had an injury coming into the league, and he has not developed since then. So they have to get something out of their pass rush, or it's just, I don't think going to be enough for their defense. Because last year their defense was really a little disappointing.
It's really important to have some good edge rushers. I mean, really, you got to take that quarterback off his spot. It's definitely.
And they were also in a first-year defensive coordinator. So, and it was like their third defensive coordinator in 3 years or something like that. And I remember talking about it last year because the same thing happened with the San Francisco 49ers. You can't keep, like they went from Saleh to what's his name at Houston, the head coach. They went from they went from 2 stud defensive coordinators.
Absolutely.
And then sooner or later, the stud's not going to be there. You're not going to get lucky.
Well, that's what happens in the league. Look at Detroit. They lost.
Yeah.
I mean, and a couple of years ago, Philadelphia lost their offensive and defensive coordinator in the same year. I mean, they still came back and played well, but for a while at least that year. But these guys get picked. I mean, the other teams are looking for good people, and they go after those guys.
Yeah, well, again, one of their coordinators was now the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, McDonald.
Yes.
So Zach Orr just played in the NFL with the Ravens like 2 or 3 years ago, and they made him the defensive coordinator last year. He was not prepared, and they got off to a real sluggish start. They finally brought in some veteran coaches who could help them along. They improved a little bit. But nobody knows if Zach Orr is going to end up being some sort of really good coordinator either. Just because things got a little bit better at the end of the last year, it doesn't mean Zach Orr is the answer. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. But look, this is a good team, very good team. Barring injuries, they're going to be there again at the end. And then it's all going to be up to matchups and things of that nature. I love their first-round draft pick, Malachi Starks. This kid is a top 10 talent. But safeties don't get drafted high in the league anymore. So Malachi Starks is going to be a star in the NFL. You throw in, he gets to play alongside Kyle Hamilton, and there's some really good talent on this defense. Of course, Madubuike actually had a little bit of a disappointing year last year, but that's probably a blip. Usually is with really good players. So overall, Really good team as usual, and I'm sure we're going to see them there at the end. So let's go ahead now and get back to the numbers, Jim.
Well, I would not lay 145, but I would definitely.
Yeah, this is the first team that we've seen.
All the news you just gave me about Jackson made me, who would step? It would have to be the Bengals. I mean, but is there really a price here that you really want to play?
Well, again, like I said, I mean, I expect the Baltimore, barring injuries, they're going to be right there at the end again. But I think the difference is now you have Joe Burrow, and this again, the defense will be better. They're healthy. And we know how good they can be. We know they compete with the Ravens all the time down to the wire. Ravens have beaten them lately, but I think that's because the last couple of years the Bengals have had shit defense. So, and that's the interesting thing, Jim, is that those games used to come down to the wire.
You're convinced that the Ravens or the Bengals defense is going to be improved.
Absolutely.
If that's true, then the Bengals might move up to number one here.
They absolutely could.
100%.
That is a possibility. Yes. So I do like the 230 because I definitely think the Bengals are a first place caliber team. As far as Baltimore, yeah, the minus 145. I in a division this tough, and I'm sorry, I think Cleveland's better than 30-1. I don't know. It's too ridiculous to me.
Well, you can make it 10 million to 1. The question is, do they really have a chance? And I don't think they do, unless they can come up with a miracle at quarterback, because you do need a quarterback. No matter how well you run the ball, you do need a quarterback.
Oh, yeah. If you're talking about Cleveland, yeah. I mean, yeah. I again, with Cleveland, the only reason, again, like I said, that I would even say I'll throw a couple of bucks on them is just because they are a talented team that is a quarterback away. So why not? It's 30-1. And the other thing too is you would need the other teams to have issues. You can't just, everybody's fine and they're going to go from fourth to first. No, that's not how it works. What would have to happen is, let's say Aaron Rodgers doesn't work out. Oh, that's a stretch. Cincinnati, something really bad happens there where the defense continues to suck. Well, that's a stretch. So how do you know Cleveland can't be a lot better and wind up, being in a position where
being in the betting business as much as I am, when they put a price up at 30-1 and it's attractive, it probably means it should be 60-1.
Well, again,
I mean, they do rob you on the futures. I'm just telling you, you never get
sure. But again, that's what
you never get the right price on a future ever.
Every year you have last to first in the NFL. Every year,
that team will not be first in the NFL.
I agree with you. I can't see it happening either, but I don't see them anywhere near 30-1. I see them as like honestly, I think they should be like 10-1. That's what I think they should be. So anyway, are you taking Cincinnati?
Okay, I'll take Cincinnati.
I'm not trying to twist your arm to take them. Do you want to take them?
No.
Okay, don't take them then.
You kind of put a gun to my head.
No, I didn't. I'll take them. You don't have to.
I'm just going to pass.
Okay, I'll take them. And so that means you're also not taking Pittsburgh, who is
I'm not betting this division.
All right.
I don't like the prices.
All right. Let's now move on to, let's take a look and see what their Super Bowl numbers are. Let's see. So Ravens obviously are the top dogs at 7-1. And look, if you like the Ravens and think that the Ravens are either going to win the Super Bowl or are really one of the top 4 contenders, if you really believe that, then 7-1 is a pretty decent number in my mind. I don't like it. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl because
I like the Bills over the Ravens at the same price. I would rather the Bills. If I
agree,
put my money on, I'd take the Bills over the Ravens.
Yeah, I agree. And we haven't even talked about other teams like the Bengals. So, okay, and then the Bengals are 20-1. Are you surprised they're 20-1? Because they could be worse. They could be 30-1, 35-1.
Like I said, Greg, you never get a good price on the futures. They don't give you good price. They don't give you what the true odds are. They never do. They never do. That's a bookmaker's edge. They do that all the time. You should be maybe it should be 40-1. It's
No,
yeah,
well,
it looks like a nice number, but it's
it
not
doesn't look like a nice number.
the number that it should be.
No, it doesn't look like a nice number. Their defense was awful last year, and you're giving 20 to. They didn't even make the playoffs last year, and they're 20-1. As much as we liked them, those odds are not good. There's no value there.
There's a reason for that. They really, when you look at that division, you're really looking at who is going to come out. The winner of the division is going to the playoffs. So if they really can beat Baltimore, they're going to the playoffs. And now once you get them in the playoffs, so the first thing you have to do is get to the playoffs. So likely they're going to make it, and Baltimore will probably make it too. So both teams will probably be there. So now you're not really betting them at 20-1 from the get-go. They're already in the playoffs. One of the few
that's a completely different way. That's I don't know about that. I understand what you're saying, but it's like it's almost like it's too. You're making it sound too easy.
Well, nothing's easy, but
you're making it sound too easy. Like, they're going to go to the playoffs, and so therefore,
if they stay healthy, and they're coming to the playoffs.
We both agree on that. We both think they can also win the division. That is very possible. All I'm saying is you're getting no value at 20-1. I don't see it. Not for a team that didn't even make the playoffs last year and had no defense last year. And maybe this is a number two because I didn't look at it or pay attention to last month. It's possible they were 30-1 or 35-1, and the public has knocked them down to 20.
Yeah, you're right. It's possible. Yeah.
Okay,
Pittsburgh. I'd have to look at all the contenders from the AFC.
We're only 4 weeks in, so that's what this is about. This is just early observations, and we'll have our final picks. Probably right around late August.
Are the Bengals better chance to get to the Super Bowl than the Texans?
No. Oh, with the Super Bowl?
Are these Super Bowl odds?
I would say yeah.
What are these odds?
Super Bowl. But yeah, I say yes.
The Texans at 40-1, the Bengals at 20-1.
Yes. Yes. Answering your question.
I think the Texans have. That's the bargain because the Texans don't have that much competition in their division. So now you got to pass through to 4. I'd rather bet the Texans at 40-1 than the Bengals at 20-1.
Well, we already made picks. Let's see if we. I
know, but I mean, this is we're doing a comparison now. That's not.
Yeah, but I don't know what they were. See, I don't think they were 40-1 when we did the show, because if they were 40-1 when we did the show, I would have taken them. Because I think that is a really big number for Houston, for a team that 100%, barring injury, is winning that division. So yeah, I would definitely. And that's why I'm saying, once we get to late August and make our final picks, if they're still 40-1, I know I'll be taking them. Anyway, so what do you think about that's it, basically, because you got Pittsburgh at 40-1. And then, of course, Cleveland is way down at 250. So are you taking any team here?
No.
So far, Jim is 0 for the AFC North. Let's go to wins. This is where we'll get some action. Let's start with Baltimore. Over 11.5, -115, under -105.
I'm going over.
Over the 11.5 in that division. Okay.
Yeah.
So going with Ball. And by the way,
they got too much talent. If that kid plays and plays anywhere near his level, they're definitely a 12-13 win team.
Okay, so do you think that's because you're saying that you think that's a better bet than them winning the division at -145?
Yes.
Okay. Is that because of the -145 compared to -115?
It's a different bet. It's a totally different concept.
Well, no, you're saying that they're going to win 12 or 13 games.
I don't want to lay 145 to win
That's what I just said.
The division. I'd
rather 145. That's the difference.
Number over 11.5 small.
That's what I said. So that's the major difference is -145 to -115. That's the reason.
You're betting two different things. You're betting one to beat the other 3 teams to win the division. In this, I'm betting how many teams I'm going to be able to beat out of the 17 games I play. So I'm saying that this is a 12-5 team, if not a 13-4 team. But
the main reason for let's just say that the Baltimore Ravens were minus 115 to win the division.
Well, then
which one would you do?
No, well, 15 is awful cheap.
Again,
I'd have to bet the 115 to win the division.
Okay, that makes sense. That's what I thought. Because because look, obviously, if you think Baltimore's going to win 12 or 13 games, well, they have to win the division then, because otherwise Cincinnati's got to win 14 games. Not
necessarily, because Cincinnati could do the same thing.
I know. That's what I just said, that they would have to. But that's kind of rare that Baltimore would win 13 and Cincinnati would win 14. You know how rare that is.
Well, they don't have to win 14. They just win 13. You'd get, and then the tiebreakers get into it.
Anyway, the point is that the minus 145 is the big difference, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why you're going to take Baltimore over 11.5 and minus 115.
Correct.
Okay, got it. And is there anything else you would do here? Probably not, right? Because you already went over. Yeah. Over 15.5. I don't think so. 13-1 odds.
I'd go back and I bet Cleveland or whatever their total was. We didn't look at that.
No, we haven't gotten there yet. Okay. Next up is Cincinnati. Okay. They are over 9.5. Wow. Minus 150.
I would
under 9.5 plus 125.
I would not bet that. I'm not betting that.
Yeah. Minus 150.
I'm not laying 150. I'm not laying 3-2. No.
All right. At 10.5, which we don't have here. But 10.5 would probably get us down to where we want to be, right?
Yeah, that would be better. And there'll be prices out there like that, but they're not at this. Not at this.
Would you take them at 10.5?
That means I got to go 11-6.
Yes.
Yes, I would.
Okay, so 10.5 Cincinnati. Okay, and let's see. By the way, over 11.5 is 3-1 odds. That's pretty nice, isn't it?
That's a nice price, but that means I have to go 12-5.
It does. But hey, it's not a bad one when.
Actually, that's not a bad. That might be okay. That might be all right.
Yeah,
they could go 12-5.
That's one of the teams that you would wager on that it could happen.
I think we're dealing with one of the best offenses in the league, maybe the best in offense in the league. I just don't know anything, or I really have no confidence. I'm not saying pro or con. I just don't know how that defense is going to, because they're really bad.
Sure. Yeah, it's going to be one of those things where, and as bad as Cincinnati does to get in September every year, we may not know how good their defense will be for like half a season. Okay. Cleveland, 6.5 plus 180, or under 6.5 minus 220. Wow.
You know what I'd do with them? I'd look for a 5.5 and bet under.
Okay, so 5.5, meaning that you probably get something like around plus 120 or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
I get in that range. I definitely under 5.5.
Under.
They're not going to win that many games.
Okay, and then let's see. See if there's anything else. No. Okay. And then finally comes Pittsburgh. This will wrap it all up for the show. And we've got over 8.5 minus 110. That's not bad. That's a winning team.
9-8.
And Mike Tomlin always has a winning team.
What's the price? What's the price?
Minus 110.
I got to bet over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to bet over.
Yeah, he's always over. Tomlin. He's always over 500.
There's an improvement at quarterback. There's no question about that.
There is.
There definitely is.
8.5. So we've got 4 or 5 in the wins. We have Baltimore. We have Cincinnati times 2 bets, Pittsburgh, and Cleveland. So we've got 5. And then we're going to wrap it up with the week 1 lines. And in week 1, we already talked about the fact that there's going to be the Cleveland-Cincinnati matchup, 5.5 at Cleveland. Would you touch this game at this point? The over-under is 44.5.
Cincinnati has a very hard time beating Cleveland in Cleveland. Very hard time. And it makes no sense. But Cleveland plays. I mean, they do play tough. Home dog on the first week. I got
And remember, Cincinnati doesn't win very often.
No, they're slow starters.
That may not be a bad upset pick.
I'd probably look for the 6. I'd give me the Browns.
6 or 190.
And you know what? I'd probably look. No, switch that. I'm not going to take that. Give me the under 44.5.
Okay. Coming from nowhere with the total. Under 44.5 minus 115.
Right.
Oh, minus 105, excuse me.
105, yeah.
And then Pittsburgh and the Jets. And this one should be real interesting. Aaron Rodgers against Justin Fields. Pittsburgh, a 3-point road favorite.
Give me the Jets. Give me the Jets.
Yeah, I would do that too. And the final one is Baltimore and Buffalo. And we get a rematch. 1.5 Buffalo. I think that was the line in the playoffs.
Yeah, but they won't have that kind of weather.
No, they won't. Yeah, this is one of those games. I mean, who the hell knows what's going to happen in that game?
I'll take the money line, lay the 120 with Buffalo.
Oh, so you do the money line, So you're going to take the Bills to win the game.
Yeah,
okay.
I'll give you one more. I'll bet the over 51.5. So 2 bets in that game.
Yeah, the weather should be really nice for a lot of points. Over. There you go. Okay, so that is what we came up with here for the AFC North. Next week, we're going to do the NFC West. So that is going to be on next week's show. Jim, appreciate it.
Ram country.
And the San Francisco 49ers, we'll see if they come back. We have Sam Darnold with Seattle. And I just did the Arizona interview with Jess Root. That's available here on the channel. You could check that out. And that'll wrap it up. So, Jim, go make sure you get that reservation back.
Yep. Well, they fixed it, but I got to go.
Thanks a lot, Jim.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.